So we're going to solve this quadratic inequality. There's two approaches. You can use a graphical approach or an algebraic approach. I'm going to do an algebraic approach because I'm not going to assume that you have a graphing calculator, which is when the graphical approach is really the best. Okay, so to do that, we're going to find these critical numbers. And to find the critical numbers, basically, you're figuring out where this thing equals 0. So we're just going to take negative 4x squared plus 7x and set it equal to 0. So to solve this, we're going to factor. And because there's only two terms, there's really only one thing I can do. I have a GCF of x. And because the leading term is negative, we will always factor out a negative if the leading term is negative. So that would leave us then with 4x minus 7. So setting the two pieces equal to 0, so negative x equals to 0 is just going to be x equals 0. And then setting 4x minus 7 equal to 0 is going to give me, if I add the 7 to both sides, 4x, divide by 4, and we get 7/4. So there we go. We have our two critical numbers, x equals 0 and x equals 7/4. Okay, so at this point now, I'm going to kind of backtrack here and save myself a little space. I'm going to take those two critical numbers of x equals 0 and x equals 7/4. And what we're going to do is we're going to graph them on a number line. Okay? Forgive me, my number line is not going to be perfect. Close enough. Okay, so here's 0. 7/4 is bigger than 0 because it's positive. And what we want to do is we want to think of this as divided into 3 regions. Okay, the number line has now been divided into 3 regions. I'll call this region 1, region 2, and region 3. Now, at these points, the critical numbers on the number line, because the original equation is saying that the inequality is equal to 0, we are going to use closed circles and include the point 0 and 7/4 in our solution. Okay, so those two are going to actually be included in our answer. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to actually test regions 1, 2, and 3 and see which of those regions are going to be included in our answer. So I'm going to start with region 1, and I'm going to pick a number in region 1. Now, I see that this region starts off with 0, which means to the left of 0, and a number to the left of 0 would be like x equals -1. Wow, that is so badly written. I have to do that again. Sorry. X equals -1. So I'm going to test -1 in the equation, okay? Plugging it in, I'm going to get -4 times -1 squared plus 7 times -1. Okay, so -1 squared is going to be a 1. Times -4 is just going to be -4. That's going to be plus a -7, so I'm going to get -11. You can plug that into the calculator. But the problem is that is not bigger than or equal to 0. That's a false statement, okay? So because that's a false statement, region 1 is not included in our solution. So whenever we get a false statement, it's not going to be included. Okay, so now I'm going to try region 2. So picking a number in region 2, somewhere between 0 and 7/4. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to pick 1. Okay, so plugging 1 in, I'm going to get -4 times 1 squared plus 7 times 1, and working that out is going to give me 3. And that is bigger than or equal to 0. That one actually works. So region 2 is going to be part of my solution, which means I'm going to shade the between the 2 points, 0 and 7/4. So region 2 is included. Okay, now let's test region 3. So picking something from region 3, let's see. How about let's pick 2. 7/4, by the way, is 1 3/4. Okay, so that's why I'm picking 2. If you're not sure, though, pick a big number like 10 or something like that. You know, don't be shy. Pick something bigger than that value. Okay, so plugging in 2, then I'm going to get -4 times 2 squared plus 7 times 2. Okay, so 2 squared is 4. Times that, -4 is -16. And to that, I'm going to add 14. So I'm actually going to get -2. which is a false statement. Negative 2 is not bigger than or equal to 0. So region 3 is not included in the answer. Therefore, only region 2 is included, and so is 0 and 7/4. So to write my answer in interval notation is to go from 0 to 7/4 with brackets.